are up. I think we can get started. So hi, ladies. Like we say in Girls for Girls, hi. I'm excited to be here with you all. Hi. For this joint session between the Girls for Girls Women in Business and the Girls for Girls Writing Club. Please check out the Girls for Girls pages for any more information on these groups, just in case you're not informed about any other. How are we doing? We are living in tough times, I must say, and I just want to encourage us to not be afraid and to know that even in these times, God is truly with us. Yeah, fear not, my sisters. All right, I'm excited about today, concept note writing. What is it anyway? I will perhaps say or define what I know, what a concept is. And what I understand by a concept is it's like a general idea or a thought, a notion you could have about something, or what you perceive in your mind about something, yeah? So that's what I understand by a concept. And therefore, I would think maybe a concept or concept note writing is trying to identify an idea that could eventually turn into something, maybe a project, an investment proposal, something like that. Anyway, those are just my ideas. And even with this vague idea, I still have questions on, is a concept not the same as the same as proposal writing? I don't know. What format should it be in? How detailed, how long should it be? When should you consider writing one anyway? My name is Caroline Babazi, and I am a project manager at CML, an ICT firm in town that handles mainly government projects. And as you can imagine, my work involves a lot of documentation. I am an electrical engineer, but with experience in telecommunications, and now working in an IT firm. We mainly do IT work. And so a few things are new to me, if I must say. So I'm currently in a space of part of the work we do is software development. So I've learned a few documentation such as the SRS, the software requirement specification. So learning never ends. Yeah, like we say in Girls for Girls, you should always be ready to unlearn, learn, and relearn. Yeah. And so about a few months back, maybe a couple of months, we had an engagement with one of our clients, and so we get talking about a particular application, and it so happens that we are working on one with a different client. And so this guy picks interest and is like, oh yeah, this could actually work for us. And so my boss goes like, oh, okay, I'll write a concept note and share it with him. And yes, so there are different entities, but the general idea will be the same. And he kept, weeks later, he kept saying, oh, I haven't worked on this concept note for this gentleman. Until today, we haven't written one for him. So it's something I didn't indulge into, like really trying to get to know. So when I saw this session on concept note writing, the Girls for Girls that we're having now, I was like, yay, it's time for me to be equipped. And hopefully after this session, I'll be able to write one and surprise my boss. So I'm particularly excited about this session, and therefore I'm at the front row of the class. And yeah, so feel free, ladies, to introduce yourselves in the chat section. And as we go along, please feel free to also share any questions that you may have, and we should be able to answer them at the end of the session. All right, so today, the 7th of July, 2021, I'm excited that we have a powerful lady in the house, ready to enlighten us on concept note writing. Joan is an online and in-person trainer, tutor and coach in resource mobilization and grants writing, appropriate for public and not-for-profit organizations. She leads the training, learning, and development arm of Magister Training Associates. Previously, Joan spent over 15 years in financial, fundraising, grants and operations management roles in international and local charities and a public university, where she was keen at sourcing and translating funds and grants into impactful goods and services for communities and sponsors alike. Joan holds a master's degree in development economics from Uganda Martyrs University, a Bachelor of Science degree from Makerere University, a professional accountancy qualification from ACCA, and a certificate in organizational development and management from the East African Support Unit for NGOs, Arusha, Tanzania. Joan is passionate about building capacity for public institutions, not-for-profit organizations, and social enterprises in sound financial, grants management, and resource mobilization. I don't understand some of these things, but we'll hear more from Joan. Joan Larocque, you're very welcome. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Caroline, for that warm introduction. And I'm so happy. I feel the energy in the room, and I'm so happy that I can do this for the Girls for Girls. Prima was telling me very much about the Girls for Girls yesterday, and I'm like, wow, I just came across them on LinkedIn. I didn't know much about Girls for Girls, but it's such a great pleasure for me to be here. And so I am ready to share the knowledge I have, not so much, but really it's for us to share and see how we can better ourselves in whatever you do. Thank you so much for hosting me here today. And if it's okay, we can begin. Is that fine? I can share my slide deck. I hope you're able to see that. Caroline, is everything well?
Yes, it is, Joan. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you so much. And Caroline has effectively introduced me, so I don't need to spend time about that. And indeed, and Caroline, you've already even gone through the expectations for the workshop or the training, like we do it when we are in a physical meeting. But really, my hope is that after this session, you should be able to write that compelling concept note. Of course, with caution, you need to put in effort and practice and complete that concept note that you have shelved for a while. Your boss should be surprised, like you said. And then the other one is that you're able to support compilation and submission of concept notes, like we will see in the next slides, how important it is and how it's a very important document to have even when you have nothing in particular that you're going to send to. And really, I really hope that from this session, you'll be interested in understanding more in depth about proposal writing and concept note writing in your efforts for resource mobilization. In terms of coverage, so that we have an overview of what is entailed in this, we'll just have what is resource mobilization, and in particular, we are looking at the funding proposal, meaning a funder or sponsor or donor or something like that outside there that we are looking funding for. And then the concept note, which is the gist of this discussion this afternoon, and why the concept note is important, how is it structured, and what you should include in. So, and an example how you can use the concept note, and then we shall do the Q&A at the end of it. So I like this quote. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. And so I'm so happy that you are here learning about concept note writing in a bid for you to be able to mobilize those resources that you need for those wonderful works and projects that you're doing. I'm really excited. Yesterday, I was looking at your webpage and seeing the different brilliant things that the women are doing all over the world. So thank you so much for doing that work. So resource mobilization, why do we want to mobilize resources? I'm always motivated and lend myself to the Sustainable Development Goals, which kind of summarizes everything that we do. And it's a universal document that can combine you, me, and any other funder that may want to sponsor your work. So it could be for economic reasons, like if we look at the first development goal, which is to end poverty or no poverty, or to bring food on the table, zero hunger for those who are there. Maybe the environmental issues like climate change or safe water, clean water and sanitation, or even social factors like we have education, gender, and whatever the reason it can be. So I like to lend myself to the Sustainable Development Goals because it's that bridge. Every funder or every sponsor, everybody is in one way trying to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. So even with your small projects or minor projects, big size or whatever size, we are all in one way contributing to this. So it's a very good starting point from the global level, but of course you can cascade this to the country level, to your organization and what your requirements are. So in brief, really, resource mobilization is the process of getting resources from those resource providers, those who have, and use it for different purposes. And there are different mechanisms that we will see later on. And you are able to implement your organization predetermined goals or needs. So we need funds really for different things. So it's important that we know how we can get these funds. So comes the proposal, like we have the ring here. The excitement of having a proposal. It may not just be the marriage, it may be some other proposal. But then let's zero ourselves to the funding proposal. So the funding proposal is used to request for funds by providing a compelling case why you need those funds in the first place. So we have the funding proposal, Caroline, like you said. There's a proposal, there's a concept note, so which is which and what is required at what time. So we will be looking at that in the next slides. I just wanted to let you know that there are different types of proposals and they may be, you may come across them or you may not come across them. And so I just wanted to explain a bit more about the solicited proposals. That is when a funder or a sponsor or any resource provider gives a notice, could be an advert or their website, they are open to receive funding proposals or concept notes or letters of inquiry. Here they would make the announcement and you'll be able to know that they are asking, they are accepting calls. Then there are those who do not announce, but really could be accepting also asks from them. So those would refer to them as unsolicited. Or there are those who have both. They can advertise, you apply, or they have also a window where they receive the unsolicited ones. So take note, even while you don't see an opportunity out there, you should not keep quiet, knock the door and find out whether they are willing to fund your kind of project. Then there are the continuation or the non-competitive. These are when you already have a contract or an agreement with a funder or a resource provider, and then you are assessed well and a renewal is made for you, or because you have done great work, or the work that you need to do still needs to continue, you can have a continuation for maybe a couple of years. And then there's renewal and the supplemental. So the supplemental is what, as we have seen recently, is that you already have an agreement with the funder, but because of the epidemic that befell us, you are able to get additional money to respond to an emergency. So those are also available and there. And then comes to the types of proposal. Just want to situate the concept note within the broader context of the different types of proposals that resource providers receive. One of them, which is the starting point, is really the letter of inquiry, where you just randomly can send in a short, it can be an email, can be a letter, just to inquire whether the funder is funding the kind of work that you're doing through a short inquiry. Or sometimes while I worked in the university, we had one of the largest funders in the medical field who would expect, before you submit a proposal, for you to send them an intent that you are going to submit a proposal. In part, they wanted to use it to estimate the number of proposals that they would receive so that they can line up the reviewers and resources that they need. But the other way that they used it in our case was, we did submit multiple proposals, and in their view, felt that most of the proposals would have been stronger if we had written one strong one as a university. So we then had to get back to the team and say, the fund advises us, let's put in one strong one rather than multiple ones and compete against each other. So there are different ways that these types of proposals or forms of proposals can be used. It can be used from the resource provider side or even from your side, just to check that what you intend to do is something that is acceptable on the other end. Then there's the letter of proposal. This is a proposal in a letter form. Dear whoever, this box number, this is the title, we are seeking or inquiring about this. You're really asking for money or funds. And I also want to be clear that when we talk about resources, it doesn't necessarily mean money. It can mean anything. It can mean technical advice. It can mean equipment. It can mean capital, wherever the funder or wherever your needs may be. So when we talk about resource mobilization, we're looking at it in that broad sense and not necessarily money. But when we say we are fundraising or looking for a specific need, money or funds, then it's also acceptable. So the letter of proposal, we have seen it very common in corporates where they don't have the time perhaps for looking at very detailed proposals, but through a letter and appealing to their social corporate responsibility or now the environmental and social governance arrangements, you can actually write a letter of proposal saying what you do, what support you need, and what is in it for the corporate, because it's a two-way. Everybody needs to benefit in one way or the other. So you want something from somebody, but you should also know that they have they have a stake in wherever you're asking. Then comes the concept note, which is the discussion we're having today, and the full proposal with all the detailed components. But we shall concentrate on the concept note for today's discussion, in part because the concept note is the brief version of the full proposal. So you can have a full proposal of what you intend to do with all the components of the full proposal, including why you're asking for the money that you're asking for, what makes you feel like there is a need, who else is supporting the idea through quotations or quotations that you will make there, what is the goal, the objectives, how are you going to measure, what kind of results do you anticipate, and generally, how are you going to sustain the impact of your project? Because when we have projects, especially if the project needs to continue, then we need to think about its sustainability, and all that is captured in that full proposal. But in our case today, we shall concentrate on the concept note, which is a good step really towards understanding in detail what a full proposal is. And it's also a document that you can already use right away to start your fundraising or resource mobilization efforts. So in other words, it's a shorter version of the full proposal. And why is it important? Caroline had already hinted on some of this. One is just so you are able to check with the resource provider whether they are interested in the idea or the project that you have. The other one is for you to be able to market your project to a prospective sponsor, donor, funder. Remember, I'm using sponsor, donor, funder. Why? Because it's just how somebody wants to be called. If you ask me, so should we call you Joan? Should we call you Rock? Or should we call you? So funders also have their preference. Some like to be called sponsors, others funders, others donors, others maybe partners, or whatever they want to be called. So it's a document that you can use to market your project to a prospective funder or sponsor and see whether they're interested in what you're trying to do. It can also be one way you interest a sponsor into funding your unique project. You're doing something great. You know a funder that perhaps has funded some similar work. So it's a good document that you can use to just check their interest and see if they can fund that unique project that you have. Then the other one is that it can help you to demonstrate the importance of your project in brief. And this is very important. I really encourage my online students and participants to get into the habit of having those brief concept notes, even while you do not have an opportunity that you're responding to. So you just have something ready that you can tailor to the needs of whoever may come your way, whoever may ask for it. And then from the funder's perspective, it's used in many times to sieve applications before a full proposal is written, which I think is very important because then you don't waste a lot of time submitting a detailed proposal when actually it's not something that they are willing to fund. So it's a good way if a funder asks for a concept note, please do, and appreciate that they have really taken time and consider that you really don't need to write that full proposal, and yet you may not be responsive to what they are actually funding. So funders use it also from that side. And for you as well, instead of going full proposal, especially if it has not been asked for, it's perhaps better that you use a concept note rather than a proposal to just check in before you write that full proposal. And like the shoes here, different types. So is the concept note, so are the proposals. There's no one size that fits it all. So you should be able to tailor those concept notes, those proposals to the needs of your resource provider. And so getting to know a bit more, because at the end of the day, you want to meet at that sweet spot, something that will work for them. So researching about the funder is very important. Looking at the templates that they provide, if they do provide, is very key because then you are aligned to what they would want to see. And if they don't provide templates or forms, then feel free to ask if this is allowed or suggest a format or a template, a format that they could accept. The other one is knowing your project well. And that's why I was emphasizing that it's good for you to already prepare those concept notes that will help you in knowing your project well, not only knowing, but being able to also document it somewhere, and then you're able to tailor it. So in all fundraising, it's about, or resource mobilization, it's about the sweet spot. So if you're a business, for example, you have your priorities, it could include looking for funding opportunities for your business. You already have your resources, perhaps your skills or the capacity of what you can do internally, but then you're also providing solutions to perhaps local needs or something that is troubling the community or the society that you live in. But the idea is that whatever you do, you're trying to work in the sweet spot. What is in it that the funder wants? What is in it that your target beneficiaries need? What solution do you need to provide? What do you have? And what is that intersection that combines you all? So really aligning yourself to what is in it for your prospective resource provider or funder is very important. In terms of structure, the concept note, you'll have a title, and the title should be captivating. captivating in a sense that if there are multiple concept notes that need to be reviewed, at least somebody looking through your title will say, okay, this one I'll read. Yeah, so it's very nice to have that captivating title. And then you have certainly an introduction or a background, the goal, why you're writing this concept note, and how you intend to achieve what you set up to do, and that is through the objectives. And it can, depending on the size of your project, it can have only one goal, but if it's a big project or program, it could have multiple goals because it wants to achieve different things. Then you have the objectives that can range from maybe 2 to 5, but the fewer the better, because under the objective, you'll have the different actions or activities that you'll have to undertake. And just for us to understand that we have a goal, and then the objectives help us to achieve the goal. And then the next one is the expected results. So even while you are proposing to do something, you already have to anticipate and also let the resource providers know what kind of results they should expect to receive from you. The other component is the sustainability. If it's a project that is going to benefit a community, then perhaps it's something that needs to continue into perpetuity, to live beyond the funding arrangement. Like we know, projects are time-bound. They have a time period when they will elapse. But then if it's a service or a product that you're brought to the market, you want this to sustainably be delivered. So even while you're writing your concept note, you need to think about, how am I going to sustain the impact of the project that I've started? So some concept notes require for detailed budgets, others don't really require. They just want you to give an top line or an overview or top block figures of how much you actually need. So depending on what is required, you may not necessarily need to go into the detailed budget, but if it's asked, I always like to say Excel is a good companion. And where I worked previously, what we did for our funders that we would apply to regularly, we design Excel templates that would mirror what their templates are, so that we are able to work outside their templates and then feed it there via Excel. Then, of course, not forgetting key information like who prepared the concept note, the date, contact and alternative contact, and if allowed, your organizational profile. So here is the gift for you. The gift for you is, what should you include in your concept note, and where does it start from? It starts from that idea, something you've been thinking about, and the idea should be aligned to that problem or that need that the community or society needs to be addressed. So you have an idea, you have something that you think, okay, if we do this, we shall be able to address this problem. So you have a project in mind, you know who your targets are. It's really important to have a target. In my class, sometimes we struggle on who is the target, because many times we forget for whom are we starting these projects, and we are lost into us, the organization. What do we want as an organization? Not thinking, what does the market or what does the community want, and what are we able to do to provide that need? So yeah, knowing the target and where they're found and what problem really exist. Of course, when you're looking at problem, it's we'll see in an example shortly, is that it's very good to ask yourself at least 5 whys. Why, if this is the problem? Why is it so? Why is it so? If you go 5 times down, you should probably be reaching the root cause of the problem, and that when you design a project, it will actually address that root cause or the need, and not necessarily what you may see outside there. And then knowing why the problem exists is important, because then in providing the solution, it will really provide you that guide. And why is it important? Because when we are addressing a need in our society, in our community, we know it's important, but to convince other people or anyone who is going to provide a resource that is important, it's not enough for you to say so, but also look at other credible resources or sources that can actually back you up. For example, if we say, yes, our project is about enabling Africa receive the COVID vaccine, because currently only 2% of the Africans have got the 2-dose vaccination. So we are at high risk of getting infected by COVID compared to the rest of the world who are 14% and above. So it is urgent that this population is seen, because the vaccine has not really has not been accessible within the African continent. So it is very important, because people need to care about lives in other continents and see how we can share the little resource that we have. So that kind of statistics information by other parties will help you justify why your project is important. So that is perhaps at a global level, but what is it at regional, what is it at local, country, or even your specific community level? Why should somebody care about supporting or providing you that resource? Who else is involved is very important, because then you want to say that, yes, you're doing this, but you know A is doing this. A is providing, okay, maybe if you're into water and sanitation, you'd say for your work is about, you're concentrating on providing sanitation solutions. But sanitation cannot go without water. So who is providing the water? If you're able to collaborate or partner with water providers, so that when you present your project, it looks holistic, or it's holistic. And if, for example, others already doing the same work that you're doing, you are able to demonstrate what is unique about what you intend to do. Is it that perhaps the demand is much more than what is being provided, and so you're entering into that space as well. And then, of course, what you propose to do, and to alleviate that problem or address that need that is in the community. Then, how will you achieve your objectives? What kind of results to expect? Because like you said, you are making a proposal, but everybody, the funder, is very interested in knowing what kind of results they should expect from you. So I'm going to give you this, but then I need to know, what are you giving me in return? So it's important for you to have anticipate those kind of results and also include them in the concept note. And how you're going to measure success. How will success look like for you, and how would you measure this? Because then that is what will be held accountable for the funding that you have been provided. And we already talked about the sustainability. How do you sustain the impact of the project beyond the current funding arrangements? Like I said, if you're providing a service or a product to the community, perhaps that is a product that needs to be accessed for a long time. How are you going to go about making sure that that product will be available? And there could be multiple ways. Maybe you're going to fundraise for additional resources, or within that project, as you implement, you're already looking at potential partners whom you can work with, or you're actually looking at the people that you're providing this service, maybe for free, for them to contribute in one way or the other. The idea is that, how do we sustain the impact of what we are doing, so that we are not held in disrepute in case we provide something and then it must end because funding has ended. So thinking through sustainability is really important. And then the other aspect is the cost. How much will it cost to solve that problem? And perhaps the cost, what could guide is the time period, because the problem could be something like no poverty. No poverty is not something that is going to be addressed soon, but then you can contribute in one way or the other towards that. In terms of money, you will align to the duration of the project or the time period that you have. And how much time do you need? Just what we have been explaining. And how will you help? And how is your project going to help the potential funder or the resource provider achieve the objectives? Like we said, we need to speak to the sweet spot for you, for your local community, and for the funder. what is in it that they want to receive from providing this funding for you. Are they aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, or are there some other priorities or objectives that they intend to meet? Your proposal concept note needs to say something about how you align to what they intend to do. Okay, let's look at an example here. I'm just looking at, say, let's talk about high levels of poverty in, say, XYZ, a place. And then how do I say, yes, there's high levels of poverty. Yes, I can confirm this because internationally, the statistics that are acceptable is that anybody who earns 1.9 USD per day and below is a poor person. Maybe in Uganda shillings to translate to 7,000 shillings. But in Uganda's context, anyone who earns 0.88 to 1 USD is considered, per day is considered a poor person. But then, yes, so those are statistics, okay? Well and good, I know what the international or global statistics talking about. I know what the country is talking about. So this, in a way, kinds of gives me that credibility that what I'm talking about is actually there and is backed up somewhere else. But then I can then come and say, for me, what I'm talking about, my project that I'm looking at is about youth, and the situation is worse with youth, especially if they're dependent and if they're unemployed. And then we go through the 5 questions. Why are these youth not employed, no jobs? Why don't they have jobs? Perhaps they lack the skills or they do not have the right attitude for their jobs. Why do they lack the skills or the attitude? Maybe I could go into the education. Maybe the education is not channeling the right kind of students that the market wants. And then I go into the why until I get to the root cause, so that I'm able to design a project that will help address the question of youth unemployment, which is contributing to poverty of the youth of their community and things like that. So in order to justify the need, I could perhaps have a statement, this is hypothetical, don't quote it, is that I could say 1 out of 10 young people complete a degree, a college degree, does not get employed. So people would be worried, because then if we are going to school and we are not going to get employed, and we have nothing to do because the education is not giving us the skills that we need to get into the market and start working right away, then there is a problem. So people need to care, because if we don't care about these youth who are out there, they are being channeled year in, year out into the society, the country, and things like that, we need to care, because if they are not employed, then they will get involved in risky behavior, which may involve crime, addictions, and get wasted in the way, and also increasingly mental health issues. So then this is a very interesting project. Somebody will say, okay, yes, I can see here. I can see why the problem is there, why I should care about this youth. And so, and I have a proposal, I have a solution. What do I intend to do? I intend to create job opportunities for, maybe I could say 1,000 youth or whatever number of youth. In this case, I'm saying ABC youth in 3 years. That's a goal. I intend to create jobs for ABC youth in 3 years, that being the goal. And in terms of objectives, how do I intend to do this? I intend to train or skill or reskill. Like I said, if, for example, the youth are coming out with the skills that are not that are not required in the market, I can do something about reskilling so that they have the right skills that the market needs. Or try to address the root problem, which is, can we have advocacy around curriculum change, so that I don't need to be doing this, but rather advocate on a larger scale that the curriculum is changed, so that the youth that are channeled into the market are those that come with the skills that are required and are ready to work. Or how the teaching is being done is in a way that when somebody comes out, they are ready, because not every organization has the budget to train. They would want to have people come right away and start working. So what am I doing about that? Or for those who have not gone through school, but then certainly they are also poor and things like that. Can I introduce perhaps some skills and livelihood initiatives, things that they can do on their own and they can provide for their livelihood? So you can see that from my goal, I could perhaps come up with 2 objectives, one about training, the other one about a larger one on policy change, and then one on meeting the basic needs of these youth as they, as I go along a larger policy campaign. And of course, where are the youth? Perhaps I want to start in Kampala as the pilot, start here, start somewhere, and then scale based on how the project does. And then, of course, aligning it to the, it's already aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals. Maybe you have, in Uganda, we have the National Development Program Plan, the National Development Plan 3. So what is the country talking about employment and youth employment? Maybe I'm already aligned to what the country needs. I'm aligned globally, and I'm also aligned with a funder. There could be a funder who is interested in creating jobs for young people. And what my project is doing is going to help me do that. And because the funder is interested in meeting that objective, have a priority that talks about jobs for young people, and young people being the backbone of the economy. And this is very aligned to what I intend to do as an organization. I have it within my strategic plan. So I already have a plan out there, and my results. If all this goes well, I am able to say, yes, we will see. What will you see when we fund you and we are able to implement the project like we made in our goal, in our proposal, in our objectives? We will see reduction in crime. Perhaps I know what the figure is at the beginning, because it's good to know what it is now so that I'm able to say this is how it has changed. Maybe, and so one of the things could be perhaps I may be tracking crime if that was a big factor, or addictions if that was the factor that I want to check, or even mental health issues. Then, of course, seeing youth living prosperous and dignified lives, it's perhaps a mission or vision of what my organization stands for, and looking at youth having increased productivity and contributing towards themselves, the community, society, and the country that they come in, contributing to increase employment and employability through the skills that they have acquired. The fact now they can get jobs that they need, and provide a number of, and I'm able to provide a number of the change that I've been able to create through the project I have. Then there's the question of sustainability. Yes, this is a good project. You are skilling, you are reskilling, and having youth come into the market, but how are you going to sustainably contribute to that? And so the other component, which had the advocacy around curriculum change or policy change, would be something that could, if it works well, could actually have this problem addressed once and for all. But you know, like with policy matters, it may take time, but we can continuously continue advocating, but in the meantime also address the needs that the youth may have. So sustainability, I could say, okay, as part of my project, perhaps these youth who have gone through the program can give back, or I continue with fundraising, I collaborate with the local authorities on programs that are there that can help this youth and other youth that will come along. And like I said, the project is for 3 years, according to the design, and I am requesting for $150 and why? It's based on the needs that I see, based on my past experience and the capacity that we have, and maybe also the funding that is available there. So somehow you have been able to identify a problem within your community. You have backup of, yes, somebody else apart from you saying, so the saying that this is an actual problem, it's an actual need and needs to be supported. You have your program, or you have designed your project, you have a goal for it, you have objectives that you intend to achieve, you have the different activities that you will have, and you really have your ask, and you have even that funder whom you're going to send this concept note to. At the end of the day, you're looking at having very happy youth who are productive and are really having a productive life and contributing to the community that they belong to. So that is it in terms of recap. We've gone through resource mobilization just to give us an overview, and we said that we are looking at resources, not only money per se, but can be anything. It can be time, like time resources. I know Girls for Girls must be investing a lot of time for other girls. So the time resource, it's valuable. Somebody can give you time and they can't give you money, or they can give you technical advice, whatever they can give you. When I teach, sometimes we come across funders who don't provide money, but for infrastructure. So it becomes a challenge then. They provide you money and you want to use it perhaps for advocacy or capacity building, but the funder, according to their priorities or what they do, they fund for infrastructure. They want to construct and things like that. So it's also important that you know what kind of resource you require and which funder is providing that kind of resource. And then I've gone through the different types, the forms, including the concept note that we have covered in this, and why it's important and how we can already begin using it, how it's structured and how to include, plus the example of use that we have gone through. Yes. So we are to the Q&A session, and at this point I would want to stop and just maybe check in with Carol. Any questions? Apologies, I've not been looking in the chat, so I'm relying on you to let me know what is coming through there. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Joanne. That's been amazing and straight to the point. And I like the example you've used of, the employment. So that was quite easy to relate with. Thank you. I'm really glad I've been part of this session. And yeah, after this, I'm surely going to surprise my boss with a concept note. And Stella, like you said, amen to that promotion, yeah? So someone asked about sharing the notes, and yes, the presentation will be shared with us all. And I like I've mentioned, I like the example you've used, but then at some point you also actually mentioned the bit of like a marriage proposal. And I found that quite interesting that, perhaps before we are proposed to, it would be nice to have a concept note, someone sharing a concept note. And because, some proposals go the wrong way. So if there's that initial encounter with a concept note, so perhaps, people wouldn't waste time with proposals, time and money with proposals. You'd get an insight into, what someone is proposing, what they're saying, how they plan to implement whatever they are saying, who is involved in this. Is it just the two of us? When, where? So those are very interesting questions. I liked that, the questions that you have to then address in writing your concept note. So I found it an interesting one. Yes, marriage is not to be taken to that level, but I think it would give a good perspective into what one is getting into. And like Catherine shared in the chat, the question of what's the need for the other party, for the party that's giving? That's an important question, and I relate it with our session on negotiation. As you're negotiating, yes, you're fronting what you want, but it's important to also understand what's the need for the other party. So that's, I connected with that, and that's a very, very important one. So over to the questions. I have one from Stella saying, what is the recommended length of concept notes? How many pages? So she wants a guide on that. I'll read two, and then perhaps you can answer those first, 2 or 3. And then Eleanor says, at my workplace, between the goals and objectives and results, we include a section on methodology to answer the how to. How will you achieve the results? A very important question. And then still from her, she says, do you normally include the problem statement in the background, or do you have this as a separate section as problem statement and justification? Joanne, perhaps you could take those three and then we can get the rest after that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much and for summarizing the presentation. Yeah, so maybe let me start with the problem statement. So it really depends. There are some funders who will be clear about a section where you're supposed to provide your problem statement, but there are others who will be less clear or quiet about where about it, and so it would be okay for you to put it in the background, because then it then introduces what your project is about, and it comes from, okay, this is the problem and this is what we need to address. How long should it be? It should be as long as it's required, but generally between 2 to 5 pages. There are those funders who have even asked for 1 page. Can you send us 1 page concept note? Can we send us 2 or 3? But really going beyond 5, you're already going on a higher side, unless perhaps it's something that has been asked in more detail. So that's why it has the name of a brief proposal. So you're not going to put all the details. Yes, Stella then asked about goals, objectives, and then a methodology. Yes, so you can in a concept note put this in brief, because then if you're submitting a concept note which is 2 pages, it means you cannot put a lot of information in it. So you may talk about your methodology or the strategies that you're going to use. If you are an organization who perhaps already have certain approaches that you use. I saw in Prima's profile saying she's grounded in human-centered design and things like that. So mentioning certain approach that you use generally within your organization would be important, because then depending on the amount of information that is required, it will dictate how much you can present. Yeah. And then somebody was also asking about a template of a winning proposal. So a template of a winning proposal would be that which really meets that sweet spot, and then you are able to attend to all the details that the funder wants. I have a friend of mine who works in the university who once told me and said, I only apply to funders who provide me detailed templates of what they want, because what then I do is to get their template and address each and every comment or question that they have, and that's enough for me. But if I have a funder who does not say what they want, I don't bother, because I do not want to guess. So that is her approach of how she goes about compiling that winning proposal. But generally, when you go through a full proposal, you would know the components of a proposal. And if you speak to or write to those components and what the funder wants and what is in it for them, then you will be good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. There's one last one I think I see. Okay, the other was, how big can a concept be in terms of volume, 1 to 5 pages? I think you've answered that. That was connected to Stella's question earlier. And then, can you include photos in a concept note?
If there is space for that, please do. But if there is no space, maybe it is not, you may not include it in the concept note. You can send it as an attachment, a separate document, but not within the concept, because then you will be reducing the space that you have to actually say what you need. So depending, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Just a quick run through the comments in the chat room. Eleanor still said, I like the approach to sustainability. And still I saying thank you, Joanne, so enriching. And then Sarah is saying a very insightful presentation and very easy to follow and appreciate. I agree with that. Your explanations were quite easy to connect with. Then Blender says it was so timely. So I think she has some action to take on that herself. Sheila saying, great session. Catherine says, this is an eye-opener to why many concept notes never get responses from potential funders or sponsors. True, we've been able to pick on what is necessary to have in there. Well done, Joanne. It was clear. So yeah, basically people appreciating your presentation, very clear presentation. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. And then Grace says, I will definitely work on this. I had on my shelf. I think she also has something to attend to after this session. And Agnes says, if it's a one-page concept, what should be the heading of that one page?
So depending on the topic that you have, you look for something that is attractive. So if we looked at the youth, for example, like something about employing the youth, creating jobs, or yeah, it should be something that speaks to what you're trying to do, and not in detail, in a summary form, in a way that somebody's like, oh, okay. I saw recently a tweet from one of these, which was saying sex for pads. Can imagine. So we know many girls from Kasese. Kasese have had the highest pregnancy rates during this lockdown of young girls, and the topic was sex for pads. So the girls were providing sex so that the men are able to buy for them pads. So you can imagine such a thing. So having a topic that speaks to the issue in a short, compelling manner should really work.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Sandra also gave her contribution about the photos. The photos are better in the proposal. More thank yous. Esther says this couldn't have been more timely. Thanks, Girls for organizing this, and Joanne for facilitating a great presentation. Okay, lots more of thank yous coming through to you, Joanne. So yeah, John, thank you very much. This has been quite helpful. And I like that you connected this with the SDGs. And I have a friend, Catherine, who's very passionate about this. I would want to call her the SDG ambassador. But yes, and I like the way you connected what we do every day to the SDGs. In a way, it actually contributes, and perhaps we don't usually look at it this way, that we are contributing to a global cause. So when you said it clicked for me, and I was like, wow, I'm part of a global cause, and that's exciting. So ladies, let's be encouraged to carry on with whatever we are doing. It's for a bigger cause. It's not just for our own space. I believe we all have some action to take after this. I personally do, and I've seen quite a number of comments in the chat room. People saying, they are ready to dive into applying what we've been able to pick here. So thank you very much. Joanne, thank you, ladies, for coming on to today's session. It's 2 o'clock, and I want us to keep time. And
Caroline, perhaps I can just mention other things that Majesty does. So the ladies are aware what else Majesty does. Like one of this is we once in a month we provide talks, and we choose which organization or which group we provide a talk, just so we are able to share the information we have. And in addition, we also do other things like in Majesty. It's about organizational involvement, which we support through speaking like this, through the trainings and coaching programs that we do. And it's really around resource mobilization, like you saw when you're presenting. The other thing that we support, it can be strategy development or proposal development. While we like to teach, we know instances where people will say, no, teaching may take a long time. I need you to develop for us that proposal. And so we also have an arm within the company that does proposal development for organizations. We do this in person, online, or through our created space. I just wanted to inform you, we have a full proposal writing course coming up in August. And if you want to dig deep into it, then it's an opportunity for you to go through that. Other things that we do, which is coming, this is coming quite soon on Sunday, in part because we have been talking to youth. We have a teens program where we have been speaking to teens, and we have started with the P7. We are going to S4 and S6, where we just talk to them about life, what their goals are, their life, and things like that. But with the lockdown came that the children at home, and we are not really able to meet them physically because we would have loved to interact with them physically. So we have been having teens talk every Friday, but what has come to our realization, and the children have told us and said, please talk to our parents, because you're telling us this, but we think our parents also need to be talked to. And so we have this session that we are organizing this Sunday via Zoom, where we have one of us, and just so to say, this is my sister. She's done a lot on parenting, written a lot on parenting, and she was so kind enough to offer this to anyone who may benefit from the parenting, just so we are able to match the needs of the teams that we talk to. So in terms of if you are into research, especially in the academic field, we've already developed a course which is in Udemy, and you're able to go in there and study on your own. So if you have questions, then you'll write to the tutor, and the tutor will respond, but then it's a self-paced course that you can do at Udemy. The other things that we do, like I talked about the mentorship, so we speak to their teens every Friday from 6 to 7, just talking to them, their purpose, attitude, confidence, and things like that. Other programs that we do is the Maxwell Disc Behavior Analysis for be useful for individuals, families. I particularly found this very helpful, especially during lockdown, to understand my partner and see how we can really coordinate and communicate during this time. So using it for family, but also it's helpful for individuals. So if it's something that interests you, it's we are part of the John Maxwell DISC team, and we are able to administer this and this tool for individuals and organizations. Yeah, so for me, it has been an absolute pleasure to be here to speak to you and to interact with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John, for those parting shots. And it's good that you actually got to share this with us. I think this is exciting information, and I see people on the chat asking for a reshare of some of the slides. Since we are going to get the slides, we'll hopefully be able to pick all this information and the flyer too. And yeah, it's exciting news, because there's the option of, if we are not ready to even get into the details, you have a service to actually help with the proposal development. So that's exciting, and the cost too. So I'm very sure many of us are interested. Yeah, someone's asking the flyer for proposal writing. So perhaps we'll get a copy of this and share it on the Girls for Girls platforms, the Writing Club and the Women in Business. But yes, once we also get a copy to this presentation, we'll have all that information. Thank you so much, Joanne. And I also like the bit of parenting. What you pointed out is true, that, at times we, the parents, need to understand the children. So that parenting session will be a good one for us to attend. Thank you very much, Joanne. We really appreciate your time with us. It's been amazing. Thank you very much. And regards to the rest of your team that you work and do all this with. Thank you, ladies, for coming into the call today. Have a lovely afternoon and keep safe. May God be your strength and hope during this time. Blessings to you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.